Hi, everybody. At this year's retreat, I talked about fasting as part of the spiritual part of life and the cycles of life. And I wanted to take a moment today to reshare that because fasting is something that, in the circles I grew up in, oftentimes the circles I'm involved in, isn't talked about a whole lot and isn't always practiced a whole lot, but that has meant a lot to me over the years. And in high school, my church decided to participate in a group fast church-wide. It was the Daniel fast, which was taken from the fast that Daniel held in the Bible. And at the time, I was highly involved in my church, but I was also fairly uninformed about what fasting was or what it meant. To me, it felt like a practice that was going to be somewhat disconnected from my practice of my religion and not really something that I could connect to God through. Additionally, it felt like it was going to be heavy on discipline and discomfort and not so heavy on the spiritual growth. At least I didn't understand how it could connect to that. I ended up participating in this fast, and for the first day, I went without food. But then the following 20 days of the 21-day fast, I just went with only things that were not animal products, breads, or sweets. So I wasn't really starving myself, but there was still enough there that I did experience some hunger. But there was a lot more that I discovered and I experienced through that fast beyond just the hunger. After joining in my first fast, I spent a long time trying to figure out what I actually thought fasting meant, what it was supposed to mean, and more importantly, what it could mean to me and how I could reason and understand why this was important to my faith. So in this video, I want to share what my fasts have looked like, what I've felt and experienced with them, and then what I've also been able to take away from them. Both this first fast that I experienced in high school and a more recent one within the last couple of years. In the Daniel fast, I felt hunger, and with that hunger came the presence of God. I was consistently reminded of the constant decision I was making to abstain from food and persist in my fast. And that was a constant reminder of what I was intending to do in the relationship that I held with God. This was the first clear lesson that I believe I got from fasting, was that we take something that's meaningful to us and we offer it up to God in a way to open ourselves up. We can also bring with that specific intentions that we have to pray for, like King David when he was praying for his dying child and fasting. This means that as we go around with this hunger, it's a reminder to us to continue praying to God. And in this fast, my church also had a weekly prayer and worship session to do something like that. And I think that was essential to me to not just take the time and not just take the decision to offer something up, but to take the time to sit and see what God might have to give to me. So I believe all that to be true from my experience in the Daniel fast. But there was still something that I hadn't fully understood by the end of that. And that was why it mattered for me to actually give something up. Why is it that we couldn't just pray and seek God and that be enough for us to connect? And that was something else that I found in a later fast, more recently, called the Exodus fast, which I did individually, though it was supposed to be done in a group. On a side note, I just want to say that, I think that templates put together for us for worship are extremely valuable. They also shouldn't be taken so seriously that we're stuck to a rigid plan, when realistically, what's going to work best for us and connect us most to God and bring us the most growth and fulfillment might be something a little bit different. And it involved cutting out sweets and unnecessary entertainment and movies and internet. It also involved daily readings early in the morning and exercise. And what I believe I found from that is those things that I was cutting out were all forms of distractions. And more than distractions from my life, they were also forms of satisfaction and control. They were ways that I believe I was seeking to find more control over my own life, and I would even say to try to save myself. I would sum this up this way, that in a world of plenty where I have more than enough of whatever I want, I can have a tendency to try to save myself with those things that I have or could have. But through fasting, we have a way to consciously and in a measured, limited way offer up to God some of those things that we normally try to use to control our own lives, and in order that instead He can offer to us what He might have to supply us and to fuel us, and that we can see what maybe we would miss out on during those times when we rely too heavily on ourselves and on our things or those comforts that we have. And I think that piece about it being short, limited, measured is important. Because for me, I'm someone who has a really hard time at sticking to something, whether it's running or regular devotions or anything like that. But in fasting, I've always found that I've been able to know that I have an end date coming. And even if I don't complete it perfectly, I just acknowledge that I've fallen away from it and I recover it. And I know that if I can complete it through the next week or 2 weeks or however long, that then I will come to the end of that time. And with that in mind, I wanted to close with a few points. I think that no matter what it is, if we are making an honest offering to God from our lives, that He honors that and He will show us His grace through that. I think that in my life, I have experienced that grace. And there are many reasons that we could fast that I haven't listed here, and many things that you could fast. People fast from activities, they fast time by giving their time to other people, almost any type of food, and many other things that could be seen as just life-sustaining things that we take an intentional effort to offer up to God. And my Exodus fast was one of the few times that I noticed that God was speaking to me repeatedly this message. I heard or read at least 4 or 5 times in the month the words of Hagar after she encountered the angel of the Lord. And Hagar gave the angel of the Lord the name, the God who sees me. And I want to give us an encouragement that no matter what it is that we are offering up to God, no matter what it is that we are fasting from, or however we are seeking to worship or to get to know Him more, that He is truly the God who sees us. And I want that to encourage us that He will give us His grace, His love, and show us His mercy anytime that we choose to seek Him in whatever way, as we fast or worship or meet together or meet apart. Thank you.